You think you've seen it all when it comes to strange weddings? Think again, because what you are about to hear goes beyond fiction. Imagine a man ready to do anything for glory, even marrying a complete stranger just to sacrifice her. But what he didn't know was that she wasn't human. She had returned from the dead. For him, here is their story. Hold on tight, because the hunger will chill your blood. A devouring ambition, a pact whispered in the shadows. Night was falling over the village of Zembura, and the first shadows stretched lazily along the mud huts. The wind blew low, heavy with red dust and a smell of the cold. In a large stone house, set back from the common dwellings, lived Caleb, a man whose success was as fascinating as it was unsettling. At 38, Caleb had become one of the most influential men in the region. He owned 3 shops, a cotton warehouse, cows imported from the north, and a black car that only the regional chiefs dared to admire up close. But behind his well-pressed clothes and his polite smiles, there was a secret. Every month, at the fall of the new moon, Caleb disappeared. Some said he went to pray in the mountains, others whispered that he kept a woman in a neighboring town. But the truth was far darker. Caleb belonged to an ancient mystic circle, an underground order whose rites dated back to the time when men spoke to spirits and sacrificed souls to command the elements. At the center of this cult stood the Tree of Nothingness, a colossal fig tree hidden in the heart of the sacred forest of Bantora. It was said that its roots were nourished by the blood of the innocent, and that its branches carried the whispers of the damned. And Caleb wanted everything, not just wealth. He wanted power, the kind that makes men fear you, the dead respect you, and the gods ignore you. That evening, as he knelt beneath the tree, a hoarse hissing voice rose from the moss. Your time has come, Caleb. The final rite awaits you. Offer the blood of a pure one, a living virgin, united to you by the sacred bonds of marriage, and you will become a prince among the shadows. His eyes gleamed, he did not hesitate. He knew that to enter legend, he had to defile innocence and seal his pact with the Eternal. But what Caleb didn't know was that the shadow he was summoning had been waiting for him much longer than he thought. In the days that followed, Caleb traveled through the surrounding villages. His gaze was cold, methodical. He was looking for a prey, but not just any. She had to be alone, inconspicuous, unwanted by the world. A young girl whose disappearance would not raise any dust. One foggy morning, as the sun was slow to pierce the clouds, Caleb arrived at the village of Nola, a few kilometers south of Zembura. It was a quiet place, without a market, without noise. Time seemed to move slowly there. Children played in the dirt. The elders watched without speaking. And on the edge of a hill, in an old stone house covered with ivy, she appeared. Nyla. She emerged from the mist like a forgotten memory. Her dress was simple beige, slightly faded by time. Her bare feet seemed to barely float above the dust. But what struck Caleb was her gaze, a deep black without the slightest light, like 2 bottomless pits. He felt something, a shiver, but he stifled it. She is perfect, inconspicuous, lost, abandoned by the world. He observed her discreetly. She lived alone. No parents in sight, no visitors, no friends. Some villagers spoke of her in low voices as if she were a spirit. She never gets sick. She rarely speaks, she never laughs. She has always been here, but no one knows where she comes from. For Caleb, it was a godsend. For anyone else, it was a warning. He approached her one evening as the sky turned red. He introduced himself, offered her provisions, spoke to her at length. She listened silently as if she already knew what he was going to say. Then, without even smiling, she murmured, "You want to marry me, Caleb?" He flinched. He hadn't yet asked the question. "Yes, that's what I want." She nodded. "Then fine, marry me, I am ready." No emotion, no surprise, as if she had been waiting for this question for years. The wedding was celebrated with strange haste. Caleb, usually meticulous and controlling, wanted everything to happen quickly, very quickly. He chose a date, a tailor, a griot, and notified a handful of guests. He feigned a lightning bolt love, a celestial crush, but in his heart, he only saw the tree of nothingness and the promise of power. As for Nyla, she asked no questions, not about the date, nor the guests, nor the rites. She simply obeyed with that strange docility, as if she already knew every second to come. And yet, the closer the ceremony came, the more the signs multiplied. The day before the wedding, the griot tasked with blessing the union fractured his leg falling on a staircase that was otherwise solid. Caleb's tailor, a man known for his seriousness, accidentally sewed an inverted cross inside his white shirt. A black crow with red eyes came to perch on the roof of Caleb's house at the exact moment he was trying on his suit. Caleb felt discomfort, a cold sweat, but he refused to listen to his instinct. I am 2 steps away from power. It's just chance, just destiny testing my determination. The wedding day arrived. The sky was gray. No birds sang. A strange heaviness hung in the air as if even the light hesitated to bless this union. Nyla appeared dressed in a pearly white loincloth with silver reflections. Her very thin veil allowed a glimpse of her features, still impassive, still so calm. But a new light shone in her eyes. Something ancient, unfathomable. The priest hesitated for a moment when he saw the bride. Then, recollecting himself, he spoke the sacred words and the union was sealed. When they exchanged rings, Nyla slowly looked up at Caleb and whispered to him, "You have no idea what you have just invoked." He looked at her, taken aback. "What did you say?" "I love you," she replied, smiling for the first time. But behind that smile, there was a precipice, a fall, and Caleb had just fallen. 3 days after the wedding, Caleb took Nyla to a secondary house on the edge of the Bantora forest, isolated, discreet, perfect for the final act. He had never killed with his own hands. He had always left the dark deeds to others, to his intermediaries. But this sacrifice, he had to do it himself. It's the condition, the ultimate test, the one that will make me king in the invisible world. The night was heavy. The air smelled of storm, but no lightning yet tore the sky. Nyla, silent, followed him into the main room, where an improvised altar had been hidden behind a curtain. Candles, talismans. She looked at him without flinching. "Sit down, Nyla, I must purify you." She nodded. "Aren't you afraid?" "It is you who should be afraid, Caleb." He swallowed. A strange unease set in. A feeling of being watched. The walls seemed to breathe. Shadows moved for no reason. And suddenly, the candles all went out at the same time. Caleb stepped back. "Then who's there?" He yelled. Silence, then a voice, the same as the one from the tree, murmured. "You dare to raise your hand against a soul that is no longer yours." He turned to Nyla, but she was no longer seated. She was literally floating. Her feet no longer touched the ground. Her eyes had darkened, becoming entirely black. Her arms were open, her hair lifting as if carried by an invisible wind. "Nyla," she spoke, but her voice was no longer her own. "I am the one who cannot be sacrificed, for I have already crossed the veil. I was born in death and returned to watch." Caleb screamed, tried to run, but the door had closed, melted into the wall. A laugh began to resonate, deep, chilling, coming from under the ground. The walls were bleeding, the talismans cracked, the symbols on the altar turned over as if they refused to cooperate. Nyla approached. "You wanted to offer me as a sacrifice? Very well. But it is you they demand, Caleb. You are the true sacrifice." And she reached out her hand. An invisible arm grabbed him by the throat. He choked, falling to his knees. Breathless, his heart pounding wildly. Then everything became silent again. And when he reopened his eyes, Nyla had disappeared, but her ring was still on his finger. The silence after Nyla's disappearance was not a soothing silence, it was an oppressive void, a sonic chasm. Every step Caleb took echoed in the house like a condemnation. He didn't dare move for several hours. His body was still trembling. Had he dreamed? Was he the victim of a hallucination? Or had he just married a vengeful spirit, an entity he should never have approached? The next day, Caleb returned home to the capital, but his face was unrecognizable, pale, marked as if he had aged 10 years in one night. He locked himself in his room, he no longer ate, no longer slept, and above all, he was no longer alone. Noises, whispers, footsteps, children's laughter, then the cries of a newborn. Every night, Nyla appeared in different places, sitting on his office chair, standing at the foot of his bed, or in the mirror, staring at him without saying anything. And when he screamed or closed his eyes, she disappeared immediately. But always, the ring remained on his finger. Impossible to remove. He tried everything. Soap, oil, even a saw. Nothing. The ring sometimes burned him as if it reacted to his dark thoughts. One desperate evening, he went back to see the Marabout who had once told him about the tree of nothingness. But the old man received him with a grave, almost sorrowful look. "You have crossed a boundary that no spirit forgives." "I want her to disappear," Caleb screamed. "I want her to leave me in peace. You took her for an offering, but she was a test, and you failed." Caleb felt his legs give way. Who is she really? Nyla was not born of this world. She is an ancient spirit, a forgotten guardian. Her role was to test the hearts of those who covet power through blood. She is neither angel nor demon. She is the weight of truth. "But why me?" "Because you dared to lie before the invisible." That night, Caleb dreamt. But it was not a dream. He found himself at the foot of the tree of nothingness. The branches were full of faceless silhouettes, and in the center, Nyla was sitting, dressed in a black robe woven from shadow. She looked at him with infinite sadness. "You were not destined to die, Caleb." "Then why all this?" "Because you needed to know what fear is, what emptiness is, and the price of ambition." Then she faded away and the tree burst into flames in absolute silence. Caleb woke up in a sweat, but this time something had changed. He was no longer afraid, he was no longer angry, he was lost. Everything he had built was collapsing. His business partners avoided him. His name appeared linked to a series of occult affairs. Even his mother refused to see him. Nyla's curse was not noisy. It was slow, deep, an erosion of the soul. So, he did what he had never done. He returned to the source, to Nyla's native village. There, he discovered things he could never have imagined. Elderly women recognized him. "You are Nyla's husband, aren't you?" "Yes, but she is not human, is she?" Nyla died 17 years ago, on her wedding day. She had been promised to a man who wanted to deliver her to the same spirit, the tree of nothingness. Caleb recoiled, his heart pounding. "And what happened?" "She preferred to throw herself into the river, and since then, she returns every generation to test the next Caleb." He understood everything. He was just a link in the chain, a name among others. But that evening, under the stormy sky, Caleb made a gesture no one expected. He returned to the forest house, lit the candles, reconstructed the altar, and called her. "Nyla, I have not come to defeat you or to flee you. I have come to apologize, to understand, to free you if I can." And she appeared, silent. She was still floating. But this time, she was crying. Her tears were black, heavy as lead. "You are the first to ask for forgiveness. You are the first to see beyond the veil. So what do you want from me? Let me go. Free me from this loop. Give me back what I have lost. My peace, Caleb." He took the ring off his finger. This time, it slipped off without pain. He placed it on the altar. Nyla smiled for the second and last time, and with a breath, she disappeared for good. Since that day, Caleb lives far from business, far from the noise. He writes, he talks to young people, he teaches that every power snatched in the shadows has a price to pay and that sometimes that price comes from the beyond. This story is not just a supernatural tale. It is a modern parable about ambition, the weight of one's actions, and justice that goes beyond human laws. Caleb learned too late that you don't mess with the invisible. And you, would you have survived, Nyla? And you, what would you do if the person you love wasn't really human? Tell me in the comments. Subscribe for more strange and mysterious stories. Like, share, and activate the bell so you don't miss anything. See you soon for a new story, where reality flirts with the impossible. Yeah.